Run your fingers across this steering wheel and you'll feel something most people never will. Each ridge, each scale, frozen in time under your palm.
This is Python leather. The interior upgrade alone costs $100,000, more than most luxury.
But 2 hours ago, this wasn't luxury. It was 23 feet of pure predator hunting through Indonesian swamps.
And what happens between that jungle and this Rolls-Royce seat will make you question everything you know about luxury.
Because here's the thing about Python leather that nobody tells you. It's harder to work with than diamonds. One scratch ruins the entire skin. One miscalculation costs $20,000. And 50% of Python skins never make it past inspection. They're thrown away before they ever see a tannery floor. But there's a catch. The pythons that do make it through, they become something else entirely. Something that wealthy collectors will wait years to own. Let me take you back to where this begins. 4M in West Java, Indonesia. The air is thick enough to drink. Humidity sits at 98%. And in the darkness, 170,000 professional snake hunters are searching for the world's most valuable reptile skin. These men are hunting reticulated pythons, the world's longest snake species, capable of reaching lengths beyond 6.5 meters. That's 21 feet, longer than most pickup trucks. The longest ever recorded measured 32 feet, 9.5 inches. At that size, these animals can swallow a deer whole. They've been documented taking adult humans. These aren't the pythons you see in pet stores. The hunters move through swamp water that reaches their chests. They're armed with nothing but poles with hooks and decades of experience. Because one mistake here doesn't just cost money. It costs fingers, arms, sometimes lives. These snakes can weigh up to 75, that's 165 pounds of muscle that can crush your ribcage in seconds. But here's what makes this hunt worth the risk. A single grade 1 python skin 6 meters long sells for $1,500 per square meter to luxury manufacturers. That's $12,000 for one snake. In a country where the average monthly wage is $300, that's generational money, but there's a problem. Most pythons never qualify as grade 1. The grading system is brutal. Grade 1 means nearly perfect. No scars, no scratches, no scale defects. Grade 1 skins must be free of significant defects in the scent of 2/3 of the hide. Wild-caught pythons accumulate scars from prey fighting back, predation by other animals, or accidental damage like falling tree limbs. Every visible flaw drops the value instantly. Grade 2 has minor defects. Grade 3 has multiple defects. And Grade 4, that's trash, rejected entirely. This is why location matters. Indonesia dominates the python leather trade not because they have more pythons. They dominate because they farm them. Farmed pythons grow in controlled environments without predators or sources of accidental damage. Clean skin, perfect scales. The difference between a farmed python and a wild-caught specimen, about $8,000 per hide. Watch what happens when they finally corner a massive reticulated python. 6 meters, maybe more. 3 handlers working together. They pin the head first. That's critical. Python jaws can open wide enough to engulf a pig. The teeth curve backward. If it bites, pulling away tears flesh, they secure the body next, wrapping it systematically. The snake thrashes violently. Its tail can break bones. Once secured in burlap sacks, the pythons travel to processing facilities. Concrete buildings with corrugated metal roofs. This is where biology meets business and where things get dark. The slaughter method varies by country. Indonesia uses blunt force trauma followed by decapitation. Quick, relatively humane by industry standards. But in Vietnam, documented footage reveals something else entirely. Workers seal both ends of live pythons with rubber bands. Then they use compressed air to inflate the animals while they're still conscious. The pythons remain aware throughout this process. Why? Because inflated skin is easier to remove. Stretched skin has fewer wrinkles, better for luxury products. The suffering is calculated, intentional, part of the process. Now comes the critical part. Fresh python skin degrades within hours if not handled correctly. The workers make one precise cut from throat to vent. They peel the skin away from muscle and bone in a single continuous sheet. It emerges translucent, almost luminous, each scale visible and intact. A 6-meter python produces roughly 9 square meters of usable skin. But here's the inspection that determines everything. Inspectors examine every square centimeter under bright light. They mark pinholes, scratches, scars, and scaling deformations with chalk. Any defect in the center downgraded. Multiple defects rejected. This is where 50% of skins fail, gone worthless for high-end applications. The survivors get salted immediately. Heavy salt coverage pulls moisture from the tissue, preventing bacterial growth. The skins are rolled, packed, and shipped to tanneries, usually in Italy, the global luxury leather capital. Inside the tannery, the transformation begins. This isn't tanning like you do to your own skin at the beach. This is industrial alchemy, chemistry that converts dead tissue into something that will outlast civilizations. First, these skins soak in concrete pools for hours. Rehydration. The salt washes away, the leather becomes workable again. Workers scrape away any remaining flesh using curved blades. This is delicate work. Too much pressure damages the scaled structure on the reverse side. Not enough pressure and bacteria find a meal. Then comes liming. The skins submerge in calcium hydroxide solution. The pH sits around 12. For context, drain cleaner is pH 13. 1 unit away from dissolving human tissue. This caustic bath strips everything the leather makers don't want. Natural oils, keratin, surface proteins. It also splits the collagen fibers, making them flexible. After hours in the liming vat, the skins move to deliming tanks. Chemicals to alkaline, and the leather becomes brittle to acidic, and it breaks down the sweet spot dead center. The pickling bath follows. Acid strong enough to dissolve calcium deposits from bones, but controlled enough not to destroy the hide. Now we reach the heart of leather making. Chrome tannin. This is what separates rawhide from luxury material. Massive stainless steel drums, 6 feet in diameter, rotate continuously. Inside, python skins, tumbling with chromium sulfate solution. The drums rotate for hours. Days sometimes. Chromium molecules bond permanently with the collagen in the python skin. This cross-linking makes the leather durable, stable, immune to decomposition. When workers finally open the drums, steam billows out. The skins emerge with a blue-gray tint from the chromium. They feel boardy, stiff, not what luxury buyers want. So retanning begins using vegetable-based products. This second process makes the leather supple, touchable, the kind of texture that justifies $100,000 price tags. Here's where manufacturers face a decision. Keep the python's natural pattern, or bleach it white and start over. Most luxury automotive applications choose bleaching. They submerge the skins in hydrogen peroxide. The distinctive diamond patterns fade to pure white over hours. Why erase nature's work? Control. A bleached python skin accepts any dye color perfectly. Want electric blue interior? Bleach fuzz? Want to match custom paint exactly? Bleach first. The natural pattern is beautiful, but it limits options. The environmental cost here is staggering. Chromium and formaldehyde don't disappear. They enter wastewater. Many Southeast Asian tanneries lack proper disposal systems. That contaminated water finds rivers, groundwater, local ecosystem. The luxury on that Bentley seat comes with ecological devastation most buyers never consider. After dyeing comes the visual peak, the glazing station. This is where python leather transforms from processed hide into something that looks impossibly perfect. Workers use heated glass rollers. The friction and heat create a mirror-like surface. The scales shimmer, reflect light. Even though it's natural material, it looks almost plastic, almost unreal. This is the moment that justifies the price. Quality control comes Next, inspectors examine every square centimeter again, under bright light, looking for anything that survived the process. One visible scratch, downgraded, one discolored scale. Reject pile. Grade 1 and Grade 2 Python leathers are expected to yield 80 to 90% usable surface area. Anything less doesn't make the cut for automotive applications. The finished Python leather now costs approximately $1,500 per square meter. A luxury car interior requires 6 to 8 square meters. That's $9,000 to $12,000 in raw material alone, before any craftsmanship, before any labor. Just the leather. But here's where everything changes. The leather leaves the industrial tannery and arrives at something completely different. An atelier, white walls, perfect lighting, silence. This is where Python leather becomes art. The master craftspeople wear white coats. They examine the leather with jeweler's loops. Every decision here carries 5-figure consequences. One mistake in $20,000 of material becomes scrap. There are no second chances. Modern luxury car interiors blend ancient craftsmanship with cutting-edge technology. Computer screens show CAD models of every car interior surface. Patterns mapped 2mm precision. These digital patterns account for every curve, every contour of the seat frame. The tolerances are impossibly tight. The lever goes on to laser cutting tables. No blade, no pressure, just focused light tracing patterns with surgical precision. The laser cuts Python leather without touching it. No blade compression, no stretch, no distortion, just perfect edges that will align seamlessly during assembly. Watch the cut edge. Between the scales, the separation is clean as a surgeon's scalpel. Traditional cutting would compress those scales, creating visible damage. Unacceptable. Now comes pattern matching. This requires exceptional skill. See these two pieces that will join at the seat seam? The skill pattern has to flow naturally across that seam. Any mismatch screams cheap. And nothing about $100,000 interior is cheap. Some craftspeople spend years learning to match exotic leather patterns. It's not just cutting and sewing. It's understanding how the animal's anatomy translates to three-dimensional upholstery. Hand stitching begins. Extreme close-up, needle-piercing Python leather, heavy-duty thread, precise tension. Listen, that sound of thread pulling through leather, rhythmic, meditative. This is where the hours disappear. A single seat cover requires 80 hours of hand stitching, just one seat. Machine stitching is faster, but hand stitching is superior. Why? Control. A skilled craftsperson adjusts tension for every single stitch, accounting for the leather's natural variation. Machines can't do that. The steering wheel is arguably the most difficult piece. Continuous curve, maximum hand contact during ownership. Zero margin for error. One imperfect stitch here and the owner will notice it 10,000 times, 20,000 times, every time they drive. The pressure on these craftspeople is immense. Many clients choose contrast stitching. It's not just decorative. Contrast stitching highlights the craftsmanship. It says, look how precisely we joined these pieces. It's intentional showmanship. Automotive art. The Python leather covers stretch over precision cut foam and mount to the seat frame. This installation happens once. The leather is too valuable. The pattern matching too specific. This better be perfect. 40 components, 80 hours of hand stitching, $12,000 in Python leather, assembled by craftspeople who've dedicated decades to perfecting their trade. Final inspection before installation in the vehicle. Inspector checking stitch tension, seam alignment, pattern match. Any flaw discovered now costs tens of thousands to rectify. Most luxury upholstery shops report rejection rates below 1%. That's not luck. That's mastery. The finished seats move to the actual vehicle. Rolls-Royce, Bentley, maybe a custom Maybach. Workers wear white gloves, protective coverings everywhere. They handle these seats with reverence. because that's what $12,000 in Python leather commands respect. Door panels follow the Python leather on door surfaces, maches the seats perfectly. The scale pattern flows from seat to door seamlessly. This is why pattern matching matters. The client sees their interior as unified design, not separate pieces. The Python leather should flow like water across all surfaces. Dashboard accent panels, center console, even small touches cost thousands. A dashboard insert might only measure 12 inches long, but it's 12 inches of perfectly matched, flawlessly finished Python leather cut from the same hide as the seats. Continuity, perfection. This is what $100,000 interiors demand. Stand back and look at the complete interior. 72 hours ago, this started in an Indonesian swamp. One animal, killed specifically for its skin, processed through caustic chemicals, transformed by heat and chromium, cut with laser precision, assembled by master craftspeople working 80 hours per seat. The reticulated python is listed as least concern on the IUCN Red List, but it's heavily hunted for its skin, for traditional medicine, and for the pet trade. Indonesia remains the world's largest exporter, Italy the biggest consumer, and America buys half of what Italy produces. The base Rolls-Royce Wraith costs $400,000. Add the Python interior package, another $100,000 minimum. That's 25% of the vehicle's value in leather alone. Some clients spend more on the interior than most people spend on their entire car. But here's what almost no one talks about. Supply chain transparency is nearly impossible. Many luxury brands cannot definitively state where their Python leather originated. Trade regulations contain loopholes. Illegal operators exploit them constantly. That designer interior could easily come from sources with zero oversight. No welfare standards, no sustainability monitoring. Just snakes dying in the dark so someone can feel exclusive. The Python Conservation Partnership exists to improve standards, but critics argue it's more public relations than reform. The fundamental economics haven't changed. Wealthy clients want exotic materials, craftspeople need work, and pythons keep dying. Hundreds of thousands annually. Technology offers alternatives. Biofabricated materials that mimic python texture without animal involvement. These alternatives improve steadily. Costs drop, quality rises, but can they match the prestige, the status signaling? That's the real question. Because luxury isn't just about materials, it's about rarity, exclusivity, the knowledge that something died to create what you own. We turned an apex predator into prey for the ultra-wealthy. 23 feet of muscle that can crush the air became leather softer than human skin. The jungle's nightmare became the billionaire's armrest. And somewhere in Indonesia, another hunter is wading through swamp water at 4 a.m., searching for the next snake that will become someone's steering wheel. This is luxury raw, unfiltered, built on chemistry, craftsmanship, and creatures most people hope they never encounter. $100,000 for an interior that started with scales and ended with status. The full journey from predator to product. This is how snakeskin becomes supercar seats.